Good morning everyone. Welcome to the second edition of this event dedicated to ERC Proof of Concept and EIC Transition Instrument. I'm Valentina Fioroni. I'm the EIC National Contact Point in Italy. This event is organized by APRE in collaboration with ERCEA, the ERC Executive Agency, ISMEA, the European Innovation Council, and SMEs Executive Agency, and Access to EIC, that is the EIC NCP network that APRE have the pleasure to coordinate. We decided to combine these two funding schemes because they are, so let's say, the perfect combination and collaboration to demonstrate the support that the European Commission can provide to those that want to turn the research results into market-ready innovation. In this event, you can learn more about the ERC Proof of Concept and the EIC transition directly from the Commission. So we have the pleasure to invite a representative from ERCEA for ERC and from ISMEA for the EIC transition. But you have also the opportunity to hear more about these two instruments through the experience of two success stories, one for EIC Proof of Concept and one from EIC transition. These two success cases will share their experience, their personal feedback on the proposal submission, on the project implementation, and so you have also the opportunity to learn how they will proceed in the future with other instruments if they would like to apply to other instruments to achieve the market. As you may know, probably the EIC Transition Scheme is a funding opportunity under the European Innovation Council in Horizon Europe, designed to bridge the gap between early stage research result and market-ready innovation. But proposal under EIC Transition must build on the result from other instruments in Horizon Europe or Horizon 2020, the previous framework program. And one of the instruments that allow to apply to EIC transition is ERC Proof of Concept. And this is why we decided to combine these two instruments. At the end of these two presentations, we have also the opportunity to learn more about access to EIC project, because within the project we have also the opportunity to prepare and to work on some tools that can help you to apply to EIC instruments. Now, I don't want to waste any time, so I leave the floor to our first speaker, Laura Pontigia from ERCEA, to present the ERC Proof of Concept. Laura, thank you to be with us, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Sorry, hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Because I don't know if it's my connection or your connection, but I didn't hear anything of what you said. I lost you completely. So I don't know.
Okay. I asked the colleague from the background to verify, but
I don't know if it's me or you, yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you, so you can go with your presentation. I think also the other can hear you.
Okay, I hope so, because I didn't hear any of your introduction, so I just go like this now.
Okay.
Okay, good morning, everybody. So my name is Laura Pontigia. I'm from the ERC Executive Agency, and I will give you a presentation of the ERC Proof of Concept. I don't know how much you already know about it. I'll try to give a general introduction to it, and then we can talk about it. So the ERC Proof of Concept grant is a sort of a supplementary funding for ERC PIs, and the size of the grant is 150,000 as a lump sum for a duration of 12 months. And the point is to demonstrate that an idea which is funded by an original ERC grant has innovation potential and could have some economic and societal benefits. But we are really talking about potential at this time. I will explain you in detail what this means. We have one continuous open call every year, but with 2 cutoff deadlines. And in 2025, we have a budget of 30 million for the PoC calls, and it's therefore split in the 2 cutoff deadlines. But I can already tell you that from next year, the budget will be up to 60 million. So this will be in the next framework program. In the next work program for the ERC for 2026, which will be out in a couple of days. So why did the ERC decided to create this proof of concept grant? This slide is quite complex, but if you bear with me, you can just see that if we go from an idea which is practically coming out from a basic research in a university, where the funding comes from the university or funding agencies like the ERC, for example, and then we follow this idea through the phases of developments and commercialization. We can see that we go through the first, what is called the first value of debt, which is from going from ERC, for example, from frontier research to the very first steps towards the innovation. There is this big value of debt where nobody is really wanting to put money in. So the idea of the ERC was to give a little contribution at this level, so at the level where the idea is still an idea, to verify its innovation potential, and then it would be let out to others to fund the transition towards the development and the commercialization. This started in 2011, but then with the creation of the EIC, we got some new type of funding. So the EIC Pathfinder, which is very close to what the ERC Proof of Concept is, and then on the other side of the valley of that, there would be the EIC Accelerator, and then in between, colleagues have created the EIC Transition, and you will hear more about it. So to see where the proof of concept stands in the European Innovation Financial Support, you really see it's still at the very, very initial phases of studying or verifying whether an idea coming out of frontier research actually has potential to become something with economic and societal benefits. So the objective of the proof of concept and the scope of the proof of concept grant within Horizon Europe is to facilitate the exploration of the commercial and societal innovation potential of ERC funded research. So it's really, the focus is not on achieving economic or social impact as a direct result of the grant. The idea is to try to understand, explore, and see if this idea could have potential to become an innovation. And basically, the 150,000 and the 12 months are given to follow a path which goes towards, as I said, towards the other side of the valley of death, but further away. So we still do fund research activities which are needed to explore the innovation potential. It's not the same type of research that is funded in a ERC original grant, but to develop this idea, you for sure need further research activities, and this is included in the funding of the proof of concept grant. The evaluation is again based on the sole criterion of excellence, like any other ERC grant, but in this case we have 3 different elements in this criterion of excellence. So one is the breakthrough innovation potential, the approach and the methodology, and then something related more to the characteristic of the principal investigator and his strategic lead of the project. I will go through this in more detail afterward. Something new compared to the previous years, now it's also necessary to provide a data management plan within 6 months from the project start, and the gender equality plan, which is required at the signature of the grant. So what activities are funded? As I said, the activities shall draw substantially on a scientifically ex-ante ERC funded research. So first of all, you have to demonstrate that the idea comes out from an ERC funded research, from a starting grant, an advanced grant, a synergy grant, or a consolidated grant. And then the money you are given, this 150,000 lump sum, you can use them for activities which really aimed at exploring this pathway from the groundbreaking research towards innovation. So it's really the following a path from coming out from the lab, going towards exploring the innovation potential. So there are activities, I really want to underline this, they are still at the very early stage of moving the ideas from research towards innovation, towards a economically or socially valuable proposition. And this includes further research, like research needed to translate and valorize research, so and all the possible applications. So the typical type of development and testing to validate the idea still in the lab. We are still in the lab. So who is eligible to get a proof of concept grant? It's all principal investigators that have an ERC grant. And now this is the eligibility for 2025. So we say the existing ERC grant is still running, or it ends after 1st of January 2024. So you have a sort of 1 year more after the ending of the ERC grant when you are still eligible to apply for a proof of concept grant. The PoC idea has to draw substantially on ERC funded research. So it's really, you have to prove that it comes out from an idea which is developed in your original ERC grant. You can apply only once per year, meaning, as I said, there is one call per year, but there are 2 different deadlines. So you can decide for which of the 2 deadlines you want to apply. In your career, you can have 3 PoC grants stemming from each of the starting COG and advanced grants, and they can run in parallel. And in case of synergy grant, because we have different PIs in that case, then you have a maximum of 6 PoC grants. And then if one of the researchers in a synergy grant wants to apply for a proof of concept, they need a consent from the other PIs of the synergy, because the idea comes out from a group, and then a consent is needed from the others. The host institution can be the same as the one where you have the main grant, but could also be a different one. And then additional beneficiaries are allowed as this is possible for the main grant. Regarding portability, it's the same rules as the main grant. So the PoC are also portable. Then, sorry, I have to find a way to move the slide. Okay. So how does it work? How do you make a proposal for a proof of concept grant? Here you see there is a link to a presentation on how to apply for the ERC proof of concept grant. There is a video where a colleague is really presenting it like in a class, explaining how you should do it. But so the proposal is 10 pages, excluding reference. And first of all, you have to explain what is your idea, the idea that you think can be taken towards innovation, so the breakthrough innovation potential of the idea. So the proposal will have to demonstrate that the proposed proof of concept grant activity has the potential, again, I underline the word potential, to drive innovation and business inventiveness, or to tackle societal challenges. And it's also important to show that the proposed expected outcomes from this idea are innovative and distinctive compared to existing solutions. So it's important to know that your competitors on the market and really say this idea is different, is more effective, is distinctive, it's more innovative compared to existing solutions. And then you have 6 pages to describe the approach and methodology. And here you sort of have to explain what are the activities and what are what activity. So you have to explain that the activities you plan to do for the proof of concept are convincing. You have to convince the evaluation experts that the project implementation is feasible within a certain time scale. So you have this period of 12 months. You have to show that this is feasible in this time scale with the resources available, and is appropriate and effective to explore these pathways which goes from the groundbreaking research towards the innovation. And for this one, you have 6 pages. And the last element of this excellence is the principal investigator. So basically, the principal investigator needs to demonstrate the ability to conduct all the management of the proof of concept project. So it has to be able to, maybe it will be somebody else working on collecting the information or the data needed to the strategic decision and implementing the plan. But then the PI has to demonstrate that they are actually in charge, responsible, and able to conduct the management of all these activities. And this is, for this one, you only have 1 page. And then you also have to include there, outside this 1 page, you have more space to include risk management table about the activities. It is important that the PI is very convincing when they describe the personal involvement and the responsibility of the project implementation, because some of the activities could also be given out to external help or consultant, but the PI still has to prove that they are in charge of the whole activity. How do you apply? You apply through an online administrative submission, which is the Form A, which is similar to the one that you have already used for your main grant application. And then there can also be supplementary documents like the host institution letter or the support letters. For example, if you already know that there are some industry partners who will be able to support you in your activity, this can add it in addition. So now here we try to see how I have 3 slides now in which the 3 elements are sort of described, and there is a correspondence between the questions to which you have to answer in your proposal and the section of the application form, the template. So there is a sort of a mirror between the question and what the evaluator actually have to evaluate. So please read very carefully these questions when you look into the work program or in the information for applicant, because it's very important that you put the right information in the right section so the evaluators can easily find them. So as I said before, you have to look into the breakthrough innovation potential of your idea. So you have to answer to a question, and I read it directly. Does the proposed idea have the potential to drive innovation and business inventiveness or tackle societal challenges? Are the proposed expected outcomes innovative or distinctive compared to existing solutions? So really try to know who are your competitors. And then, is the proposed high risk, high gain? So which means if the idea is successful, will the outcome result in a breakthrough innovation? And then is there a risk that some of the aspects are difficult to overcome? And all this has to be clearly described in the first part. The second part is the approach and methodology. So here you will have to propose and describe the activities or what you are planning to do to explore the pathway from groundbreaking research towards innovation. So, and these activities have to be well explained, and they can include many different things. And here you have a list. You can do some testing, experimenting, or demonstrating and validating the idea. Conduct further research, which is required to carry out the above activities, and to address the weakness which are uncovered by these activities. Because when you are doing the testing, the experimenting, the demonstration, you can find out some weaknesses, and then you might need, therefore, to perform further applicative research in a way to address this weakness. You have to be able to clarify IPR protection or knowledge transfer strategy, obviously, if the type of activity requires IPR protection. And then involve industry partners if industry partners are needed, but could also be societal or cultural organizations in case your idea is going towards that direction. Policymakers, because of course many of the research funded by the ERC can have impact on policy, or any other stakeholders which is important for your idea to be translated to translate your research into innovation. And then you also have to assess the potential end users of the expected innovation. End users, you see it in inverted commas because it could be customers, but it could also be policymaker or NGOs or any other type of organization which could benefit from the expected innovation. And finally, the last question you have to be able to answer is, are the proposed timescale and resources adequate for the implementation and feasibility of the project and properly justified? And will the activity be conducted by persons well qualified for the purpose? You have to explain and be sure that the activities you are describing are actually adequate for what you want to do, and the resources available are the right one. Then on the last element, which, as I said before, is the role of the PI, who has to demonstrate their strategic lead in the project management. So the PI has to demonstrate a clear vision on how to organize the management of the project, to consolidate all the information and data needed to take the strategic decision, and also to implement the proposed plan, and then including risk and contingency measures. If something goes wrong, what would you do to prevent that this goes wrong, or anyway to have some contingency measures to eliminate or minimize the risk. Okay, once you have answer to all these questions, the proposal goes to the evaluators, and the evaluation goes through one single step. It's a one single step evaluation procedure. Evaluators have 100 days from the submission to the notification. So the evaluation is done remotely. It's 5 independent experts in technology transfer and social innovation. So these experts are different from the experts that have been evaluating your original grant. Each evaluation element, so the 3 that I described before, has to receive a comment and a mark. And the mark is very good, good, which are passing marks, or fail. There is no panel discussion, so there are only individual reviews that then there is, based on these 3, very good, good, and pass or fail, all the proposals are ranked and have to pass all evaluation elements, meaning that they get a pass mark by the majority of the experts. Then the rank list is established by the marks given by the expert to evaluation elements 1, 2, and 3 that I described before. So the highest weight is given to the evaluation element 1, so the breakthrough innovation of the idea, followed by element 2. So these are the weights which are given to the different elements, and then finally to element 3, which was the PI. The highest ranked proposals within the budget for the evaluation round are main listed. And then there is a reserve list, which is created in case of additional funding to the call, which comes at the end of the year, or in case of granting failure among the main list projects. So there is this possibility to be on a reserve list. So some few tips that our colleagues in the call coordination of the proof of concept are giving to applicants. You really have to be convincing about your own involvement as a PI in the project. So the PI has to lead and be the project manager. This has to come out clearly. As I repeated more than once, you have to know your competitors and describe the competitive landscape. It's very important. You have to prove that your idea or the outcomes of your idea would be different and more innovative than what already exists. As I say also in this, as is it said also in the following tips. So what is the novelty in your specific idea or application? Have an eye on who are your end users. So who will benefit from the innovation when the idea will fully become an innovation. In case of a commercial valuable innovation idea, you have to describe the market. In case of a socially valuable proposition, you have to be able to explain what will be the expected impact of your project. So who will be benefit, what would be the benefit for society. sometimes the result of this idea is a database or an application development. And so you have to be also clear in explaining how this database or this application will be maintained beyond the project period. And in case additional funding investment is needed, which is in most of the cases the situation, how will you be able to get this further funding, through which different channels? So these are tips that you have to have in mind when you make your proposal. Since 2003, when we made the last presentation, there have been some changes. So now there is the Seal of Excellence. So from in the ERC Work Program 25, you can read that a Seal of Excellence will be awarded to proposals that have received a pass mark in all 3 evaluation elements, but cannot be funded due to lack of budget available to the call. As I said, you have the main list, you have the reserve list, and then there are others who still have a passing mark in all of them, but we don't have any budget available. So this proposal will receive a Seal of Excellence, which will be provided automatically to the applicant. This will come together with the letter you receive. And then you can, here there is a link on where to find out who are the national bodies who would recognize and support your projects who have received a Seal of Excellence from our colleagues in RTD. Okay, now briefly about the EIC transition. This will be covered by my colleagues dealing with the EIC from the ISMEA, but I just want to say that, as we said, as I think it was said at the beginning, that to receive an EIC transition, you need to have either a proof of concept grant originally or others. That will be better explained by my colleagues, but let's focus on ideas which are stemming from a proof of concept grant. So it's not necessarily that the same PI who has a proof of concept grant applies to transition. It could be company, it could be a university, it could be a consortium, as long as it is proven that the idea which is taken to transition originated in a proof of concept grant. Here you can see some statistics, and you can see that ERC, or can I say, proposals originating for proof of concept grants have been particularly successful in EIC transition. You can see that from the initial calls in 2021 to the latest one in 2024, which I think were announced recently, or in January, I think, something like that. Anyway, the percentage of proposal were successful in obtaining an EIC grant is very high among the proof of concept originating ideas. You can you can look at the figure, and you really have that the percentage of PoC funded was equal, very close to 50% if you take the whole period. So we have analyzed some of these ideas which came from PoC and became successful EIC transition. These are the front pages of 2 brochures that I produced last year. The first one is more related to example of ERC supported research, which came out in a creation of companies that then became successful in an EIC accelerated. Some of them also had a proof of concept. And this other one is more example of ERC funded research, which contributed to creation of company that actually became successful in getting EIC transition grants. You can they are published on our homepage. You can look at them. I took just one example of this because I thought it was interesting from many points of view. First of all, because the grantees are Italians, and then because it's a very successful company, which was founded in 2018, is based in Cambridge, and it was created by 3 ERC grantees. And it's a very successful company which developed a microscope which uses graphene to modulate ultra-short pulses of light to diagnose cancer tumors. It got a 2022 EIC transition grant, and it got further investments in equity fund and new investors. And the company really is particularly successful. And so it was actually co-created by 3 different ERC grantees who had different grants and proof of concept grants. So the 3 of them together developing an idea started in their original ERC grant, developed further in their proof of concept grant. They created a company. The company was extremely successful in EIC transition. And this is just one example. There are many, and we are working on making more and more of these examples known. And I guess we'll be working together also with my colleague in EIC and ESMEA to make this even more known. The following slides are basically statistics. I don't think, I mean, they told by themselves, and maybe I'm not necessarily presenting them, and but I will share the slides will be shared with you, and you could have a look at the different statistics in terms where originally these ideas come from, and the different. You see from the different domains of the original grants, you will see proposal funded by host countries, and you see Italy host countries are pretty successful in producing successful proof of concept grants. So this is the success rate. Well, Lithuania looks as if they are 100% success, but it's because there was one applicant and it was successful. But then you can see the others here, and then I think these slides can be further shared and you can look at them in detail. So I think I can conclude my presentation here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for your clear presentation. I think it's very useful for all of us because you explain all the key point of ERC proof of concept and also the evaluation. I think is very useful. And also I heard from your presentation some points that are in line also with the EIC instrument. I heard some keywords that are familiar also in EIC. So, for example, the concept of disruptive innovation, breakthrough innovation, that you have to know your competitors, and also the high risk, high gain combination in something that we are also familiar in the EIC and in the EIC transition.
I cannot hear you. You disappear continuously.
I know from our colleagues in the background that my voice is clear also to the audience. I know if one technical problem from your side. I don't know, honestly.
Because you could hear me before when I was.
Yes, of course. Yes. Can you hear me now? Okay, I try to go ahead and to solve this problem with my colleague. So now I would like to present you our success case. I invite here to the virtual stage Carmen Giordano from Politecnico di Milano. Good morning, Carmen. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Thank you to be with us and to present your experience in ERC proof of concept. So I leave the floor to you. I just want to remind to our audience that if they have some question for our speakers, they can go in slido.com and with the code ERC _EIC, they can write the question, and at the end of this first block, we open the Q&A session to reply to all doubts that they may have. So now I leave the floor to you for your presentation, and thank you very much.
So good morning again, everybody, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity today to share with you the story of my 2 ERC proof of concept projects. I will start describing my research area. What we do is to use new engineered-based approaches in order to face interdisciplinary challenges in topics related to life sciences. So what we do is to put together engineers, chemists, biotechnologists, biologists, macrobiologists, neuroscientists, but also clinicians, in order to face three main aims. The first one is try to bridge the gap between in vitro, meaning cell-based, and in vivo, meaning animal-based models, by improving the traditional cell-based models that actually are not enough predictive of the human behavior. And you can understand that this is a key point, because these kind of studies are used to develop and improve new technological, new therapeutic strategies. As a consequence, and our second aim is to reduce the use of animal models, meaning reduce the use of in vivo experimental studies, by increasing the available technological system to investigate complex multi-organ pathways. Because the so-called multi-organ crosstalk is something that is a key element of our body functioning. Our third aim is to develop cutting-edge engineered platform in order models, not only the physiological scenario, but also the pathological ones, keeping in mind that when we try to implement a new drug or new therapeutic strategy, what we target is a pathological situation in most cases. In order to move from our lab research to the market and make our results available not only to other researchers, but also to other potential end users, the idea is to have a continuous dialogue with industrial partners, not only to intercept the market need, for example, for new diagnostic platforms or for new biomarkers, but also to ask their help in order to co-develop our solution, to anticipate as far as possible potential problems that can arise during the implementation of the production procedure of our technological solutions. So the starting point of my 2 ERC Proof of Concept project was a consolidator grant project that was funded in 2016 under the panel PE8, Products and Processes Engineering, and the name of the project was Minerva. Minerva was targeting a very intriguing hypothesis. Might the intestinal microflora, collectively named gut microbiota, be involved in brain disorders through a bidirectional crosstalk known as microbiota gut-brain axis? This hypothesis was very interesting in that period and raised lots of attention by the researchers involved in the field, but they didn't have technological tools to face the biochemical mechanism underlying this crosstalk. They could rely also or only on the traditional in vitro models and animal-based models. So Minerva represented a breakthrough in this situation, because for the first time, Minerva brought the engineering approach in this topic. So Minerva's answer was to develop the first microbiota gut-brain engineering platform relying on 3 compartments, one for each component of the axis, based on innovative miniaturized technological device to be implemented, representing in vitro the most important features, but also the key biological players involved in the intestinal microbiota and brain interaction. So after 5 years of intense and enthusiastic research, we obtained a cutting-edge technology that we were able to patent, that thanks to its versatility, but also to its design feature, we were sure could be useful also to address other potential applications. So the question that arose was how to assess its real innovation and market potential. To answer this question, explain you the strategy that we follow, we have to go a little bit deep inside the technological part of the platform. As I said, the platform is composed by 3 compartments, one for each component of the brain. In the microbiota compartment, bacteria coming from the human gut microbiota could be cultured and produce a set of molecules named secretum. This set of molecules could flow through the platform, reaching the gut compartment, where two cell-based models of gut epithelial cells and cells from in the immune system modified these molecules as happen in our body, producing a so-called modified secretum. This modified secretum flowed through the platform, reaching the brain compartment, when a model of the blood-brain barrier, that is an anatomical structure that prevents the uptake of detrimental molecules in the brain tissue, modified it again, and then the set of molecules reached the brain models that relies on the three main cellular populations of the brain. The brain models were implemented in two versions. In the first version, the neurons, astrocytes, and macroglia were cultured individually in order to address the impact of each molecule, of the molecule secretum, on each cell type. And then these cells were cultured all together in a three-dimensional environment in order to better represent the real in vivo situation. So, which was the strategy that allowed us to move from the main grant to the proof of concept projects? The idea was to split the platform in two parts, addressing two applications with two industrial partners working in different areas. So, after 3 years from Minerva starting, we conceived the first proof of concept, Diana, that was submitted and funded in 2019 under the PE8 panel. And its starting point was the patented miniaturized device that we have developed within the ERC Minerva project. And you can find here on the left a picture. As a tool to predict in vitro the potential of a new drug to cross the blood-brain barrier and effectively target the brain area relevant for the targeted selected pathology. So what we made with Diana was to implement the technological and commercial validation of an innovative platform based on the Minerva device named the Chip for the Brain, carried out with an industrial partner. So at the end of the project, we were able to validate our technological tool in a drug screening application. So coming back to our slide about the strategy, Diana targeted the last part of the platform. So the idea was to go on targeting also the first part of the platform, and that's the reason why we conceived the second proof of concept, Prometeo, that was submitted and funded in 2002 under the same panel PE8. And here the starting point was an improved version of the patented device developed within Minerva, because thanks to the expertise, the work, and the results performed by Diana, we were able to modify our first prototype in order to better meet the industrial needs and the end user needs in general. So the idea was to use this improved version to assess the role of new probiotics. Probiotics are live microorganisms able to confer a benefit on the host health. To giving you an example, the bacteria that are included in the yogurt that we eat, in the prevention or treatment of many diseases. So what we have performed in Prometeo was the technological and commercial validation of a new probiotic gut epithelium device, challenged also once integrated with a cell-based model of the immune system in a new platform, and the project was carried out again involving an industrial partner. So at the end of this second proof of concept, we were able to validate our device, our technological tool, in a completely different area, nutraceuticals. So coming back again to our slide of strategy, Prometeo targeted the first part of the platform in an area that was very interesting in that period. So with this strategy, we were able to validate 2 different applications covering all the platform potentiality. The second part of my presentation will give you just my experience in implementing the proposal text. You will find here some elements that Dr. Pontigia has already explained us, but implemented in paragraph and sub-paragraphs. This is the structure of my proof of concept project. It's just a suggestion if you want to follow, and I will give you also my experience and suggestions of how to focus on these parts. I will start with the project summary. The project summary, I started the project summary describing the topic of applications. Then in the text, I moved to the criticalities and the gaps to be filled. And then I went here directly on the project aim, the main aim, and then the specific aims that I wish to target in my proof of concept project. Then it was quite easy to move to the impact. And then I closed the project summary with 2 lines about the consortium that were involved to carry on the project. Here, my suggestion is to be clear and concise and avoid, as far as possible, acronyms and explain all technical words in order to make the reviewer understand our vision and have a clear, big picture, an overview of our research idea and the vision of the innovative potential of our solution. In the second part, we deal with the idea and the breakthrough innovation potential. Here, the scheme that I followed was starting with the problem, and this paragraph was ideally split into 2 parts. The first one addresses the state of the art and the criticalities. Then I moved to a paragraph describing the solution, so my solution. And then I included here a paragraph that I call the starting point, where I described the connection between my solution and the main ERC project, Minerva. Then I moved to the breakthrough and innovation potential description. Here, my suggestion is to be narrative, to use a narrative structure in order to start a kind of dialogue with the reviewers, trying to explain our vision and why, in our point of view, our solution project is innovative and breakthrough. And also including an overview of the market, the competitors, and the exploitation strategy. As Dr. Pontigia said before, I think this is a very important part, because it's important that we give the reviewers the idea that we have a clear idea of the market, of the competitive arena, of our competitor, and how we can be different from there. And about the exploitation strategy, the potential exploitation strategy, give again to the reviewer the idea that we have studied the success case and we are figuring out how to move a step forward after the proof of concept conclusion. Concerning the third part, the approach and methodology, I started with an outline of the approach and methodology in general in order to describe the general idea. Then I implemented a paragraph that I call experimental activities design, where I tried to connect the experimental activities I was going to explain and to perform with the approach and methodology outline. Then I included here a paragraph about the IP and know-how issues, describing how I would face them during the project lifetime. And then I included a paragraph describing the partners, but also the potential end users of my solution. Then I moved to the description of the action, the detailed methodology that I split in work packages and tasks. And then I ended this part describing the resources that I needed and the team composition, including in particular also the profile of the external person to be enrolled. Then I dedicated the paragraph to the role of each team member within the project, referring to the methodology task, in order to make the reviewer understand why, in my vision, that expertise, that person could be important for the project success. Here, my suggestion is to describe clearly the activities, the expected results, the milestones and the deliverables, keeping a focus, as Dr. Pontigia said before, on the timetable, to give a clear idea to the reviewers that in our project, all the activities are feasible in the project lifetime. Finally, I wish to spend here a word on the principal investigator section. Here, my suggestion is not to briefly describe in general our CV, but to focus our CV on the skills according to the project needs, to the project management needs, in order to make the reviewer aware that we are the right person to conduct that project. In particular, it's important here to include the risk assessment and mitigation strategy, explaining not only the scientific, but also the technological problems that can arise during the project implementation and how we plan to solve them. It's important here also to give an idea of the potential delay of this adverse effect on the project time frame, on the Gantt, in order to give also the idea on how the project can be remodulated in time, during the time. It's important, as we have seen before, that we keep in mind evaluation criteria. So what I've tried to do is to consider all the questions that the reviewer has to judge, to answer, and trying to facilitate their work, answering to all the questions during the composition of the text, in order to allow them not only to find easily the answer, but also to understand our point of view, our vision, and to judge the project in the best way possible. So this was the last part of my presentation. Here you can find the website of the project I mentioned, Minerva, Diana, and Prometeo. And you will find also my email if you want to contact me. And I hope to see you soon with new challenges. In our case, will be an application to the European Innovation Council to go further with the results that we have obtained until now. So I wish to thank you again for your attention, and if there are any questions, I will be happy to answer. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you, Carmen, for your presentation. Now I would like to share with all of you the questions. So we should, I see the slide. Okay, just a moment. Okay, so maybe let's see what we can answer now, and maybe we can answer also after with the ISMEA. So first of all, maybe we can go deeper also after. The first question is about the main differences about ERC Proof of Concept and ERC Pathfinder. Actually, there are a lot. So maybe, Laura, if you want to, I hope that you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes, okay, I see that. Okay, so if you want to introduce this, maybe then also with the ISMEA, we can go deeper. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I have illustrated what the proof of concept is. Maybe it's good if the colleagues in ISMEA explain what the Pathfinder is. So I rather leave it to them, not to.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Sure, we can go maybe after with ISMEA. So let's see if I can understand the question first of all. So societal innovation, which is needed to be funded through the ERC proof of concept, is difficult to link to IPR or commercial strategy. How can scholars target this tool?
Yeah, well, as I tried to explain, I was trying to put the focus also on possible societal or social innovations, and there you have to, you obviously there you probably don't talk about IPR, but and you don't talk about the commercial strategy, but the tool, the proof of concept is open also to social innovation and to ideas coming from social science and humanities, and there are success stories also there. if there is no IPR, you have you cannot talk about IPR. Obviously, there could be other ways of protecting it. If you don't have a commercial strategy, you have to give an explanation on your strategy to make the innovation available in other ways. As I said, you can talk about, instead of looking at industry or at the market, you look anyway at what's available. You don't call it market. The thing is that when we describe the proof of concept in the past, we really tried to avoid words like commercialization or market or IPR, especially to make sure that the tool is available to all sorts of innovation. I think it's a question of a language. You have to use the language in your domain, and this will be recognized because the evaluators who will be evaluating this type of projects are expert in transfer of knowledge instead of transfer of technology, if you want. So this proposal will be assigned to evaluators who are able to understand this type of innovation.
Thank you, Laura. Then I think that you, answered during your presentation, or maybe we can repeat it. If I submit a proof of concept project this year and it gets rejected, can I submit the same proof of concept project next year?
Next year in a new call, yeah, in a new call, yes. Not in the same, not at the second deadline in the same year, but you can resubmit it the year after.
Okay, so maybe this is also for Carmen, maybe. The Polyme work seems more a demonstrator than a proof of concept, as they created and patented a device. Usually a TRL 3 is to experiment about critical function, creating plans for a demo, isn't it? Or maybe you can answer both. Maybe it's about the TRL, that you add in your project.
Okay, so during the project implementation, I started from a TRL and I reached an incremental TRL. The idea was not only to be a demonstrator, but also a co-developer, because during the project, we implemented also our technology. So we moved from the lab research to a more close situation to the market. So the idea was to move a little bit, but also modifying our technological tool. So when we performed the validation, we also implemented the technology. That's the reason why we moved also from the lab scale to the industrial, an industrial environment. And that's the reason why all the most part of our assessment was performed in the industrial lab in order to validate our tool in an industrial relevant scenario. So I can just share what we made. We prepared the prototypes. We sent the prototypes to the industrial lab together with our team. And our team was interacting with the industrial team in order to have the feedback about the technological use, if it was friendly users, if it was easy to use, or if there were some technical problems related to the performance. And then we come back to our laboratories modifying the technological object. So at the end, we had something that was validated in nutraceuticals and in drug screening and ready to be used also in their pipeline. Ready means that we need a little bit more path to do towards the commercialization, because there are some problems we need also to face. That's the reason why we want to apply to the EIC. But we were aware that the end user had give us the feedback about the potential of our prototypes in their field of interest, and then move from one TRL to another. I hope I answered your questions.
Okay. Okay, let's see if we see other questions coming in the slide. Otherwise, we can say that it was. It was perfect. Okay, so this is. Thank you, Carmen. This is about. I think maybe you, Laura, at a certain point shared a slide with some percentage. So, what is the share of proof of concept for societal sciences, and what about humanities?
I think social science and humanities together. I think some of the latest data were around 8.5%. But to see which one are actually from humanities, I'm not too sure if we split the data in the statistic I sent. Probably not, but you can see. Wait, maybe yes. If I share the figures, you see it. But of course, as I said, around 8.5% comes from SH in general.
Okay, so thank you. What will be a good reason to ask more than one proof of concept? Is it one proof of concept follows on the result of another, or in parallel because there are different aspects of the ERC with innovation potential?
The idea is that from the same ERC grant, you can actually generate different ideas with different innovation potential. So it should not be that a second proof of concept is a follow-up of the first proof of concept, because maybe at that point you apply for transition if you want to. The idea was at a point we were thinking of creating I think we call this super PoC, which would be to go a step forward. But then we discussed with our colleagues in EIC, and there where it was there was the creation of the ERC transition, which is actually a step forward from the proof of concept grant. So the idea, we think that obviously you can have more ideas coming out from the same project and then apply for different proof of concepts.
Probably, Alessia, I can also tell something about it, because in my slides, I show you that I target 2 different applications. So the idea was not to make a sequence between the first and the second PoC, but just to target 2 markets, 2 different potential end users. So they went generally in parallel. The reason why I split apart from the rules that we cannot apply 2 PoCs together, but also to benefit from the feedback of the first PoC to the second one. That's the reason why there was a link. It was the overall strategy. And probably this is something that you can implement if you have a constant dialogue with the industry in order to understand which is the market that you can address. And probably there are more than one market when you're trying to understand which are the potential application of your technology.
Yeah.
Okay, so one question about let's say the template. So are references also outside of the 10-page limit?
I think so, but I'm not in charge of that. So please have a look at the information to applicant, because I don't want to give a wrong answer on that.
So the aim of ERC proof of concept is TRL 4. Then for the EIC Pathfinder, we will see it after. So just about the TRL and ERC proof of concept.
We don't use TRL in the ERC,
Okay.
and the idea is really not to look at it. And as I think it was said also before by Carmen, and I heard also from other ERC grantees, I mean, you go a step in one direction and then you go back to a lower level of TRL. So we really don't have this in mind when we talk about ERC PoC.
So one about the timing. Let's say submitting an ERC after 1 year is too soon or not? What do you think?
From our point of view, there's no difference. We had when we created the PoC long time ago, we have been discussing about this, and then we decided that, I mean, in a way, one could apply the day after. I mean, it's not Obviously, because we don't believe in a linear way of going from research to innovation. Ideas are there already, come out before, after, in between. Maybe some are pure serendipity, some others have always been in the mind of the researcher. So it doesn't make any difference. I don't know what you think, Carmen, but
I totally agree.
Okay, so to Carmen, could you please explain the meaning of criticalities? Sorry, I just
okay. Sorry if I have been not clear, but in my view, criticality is something that is not working, has to be improved. For example, the sale-based models are not representative of the human situation. This is a criticality to be addressed. The gap to be filled is something that is missing. We do not have a model representing in vitro the microbiota gut-brain axis dialogue. So in two things that are, complementary, but in my vision are two different things. You can address a criticality, a gap, but also both of them. I hope I explained better the use of the word.
Thank you, Carmen. So let me see if you can answer here or after. It is possible to have ERC proof of concept, ERC transition with collaboration partners or alone? So maybe for transition, Laura, if you agree, we can discuss after. So how is which are the rules to apply? So maybe it's better, so we can skip this. So the one on on timing, we already did it. So the third one, Manuela, as I see on my screen, actually about the TRL, I think we already answered more or less. Now maybe it's not so clear. So about the description of the project, Carmen, seems that is about TRL 3. More than TRL 5 or 6. Does this mean that lower TRL proposals have less chances of success despite the written rules? Even if I'm not okay, go, Carmen. I was trying to figure out better the question.
Okay, I'll try to answer again. Probably I was not clear before. So instead of talking about TRL, I wish to talk about starting point. So the main problem is, where is the starting point when you address that market? In Minerva, I had a platform that were able to address microbiota gut-brain axis crosstalk with defined in vitro cell-based model, gut epithelium, human cells, etc. If I have to target the drug screening application, is something completely different, because my device, its positioning is on another starting point respect to what I have performed. So the starting point of TRL and the reaching point of TRL is the work that you perform during the PoC. But in my opinion, probably Dr. Pontigia can help me in this, it's not a matter from where you start with your technology, and what you are able to achieve at the end of the project. So what you are able to demonstrate with your project. For a technological one, the validation in that topic area, it's important, because we want to demonstrate that what we have in the lab can be used also on the market. So in this view, as I said, it's not a matter of only TRL, but it's a matter of how to co-develop the new solution, how to implement the output of the main ERC within a PoC. I hope I answered to the question.
Thank you, Carmen. Okay, so actually we almost answered, but to focus again, last time. So about the timing, so if I have a proof of concept, when can I submit a follow-up application while the first one is still running, or only afterwards?
I don't know what you mean for follow-up application. I mean, if you mean apply for another proof of concept grant, you can apply once per year. So if there are 2 deadlines in 1 year, you can apply only on the first or the second. But let's say you apply on the first one or on the second, and then you start your proof of concept grant. If you want to apply for another proof of concept grant, you can do it the year after. They call it the year after, even if the previous one is not finished yet. So they can run in parallel in that sense. I don't know if this is clear. But...
Okay, so I think now it should be clear. So the last one, when we talk about market and competitors, are we talking about commercial ones? So it is not research literature based, correct?
Okay.
The problem is the definition on what is an innovation. So, and the problem is that very often this type of language is difficult to explain or to find the right words when we are talking about something which is not commercial, if you want to. But an innovation, we talk about an innovation which, so you have to have a problem. You have to identify a problem. There is a problem, and I have a solution for this problem. This solution has to be innovative. So it has to be either more efficient, more effective, or never done before. It's different from, maybe there are no solution existing at the moment, or maybe there are some which are not as good as mine, and I come with a novel solution. So now the problem is, how do I identify a pain, an issue, a problem in literature, and what would be an innovative solution? That's the issue. I think it's more a question of being able to explain that in that sense. We have words when we talk about there is a commercial problem, there is a problem, a technical problem that is not solved. I have a solution to solve the problem, and I can eventually in the future produce a technology or a product that can solve the problem. In terms of being in solving an issue, a problem, a pain in humanities, I wouldn't know myself how to do it, but that's the whole issue, I guess, if it makes sense.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you also to Carmen for your availability, for also this time for answering to all the questions. Now we'll leave the floor to my colleague Valentina again, so we can go on. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Carmen. Thank you, Laura, for your presentation. And I think it was very useful your support in this event. Now we move on, and also thank you to my colleague Alessia Rodolo, that is EIC NCP2, that help us in this Q&A session, and that we will see later for her presentation. Now we move to the EIC transition part. So I would like to invite Viral Pekka. Good morning, Viral. Thank you to be with us and to accept to present the EIC transition to all of us. Viral Pekka is
Good morning, Valentina, do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. I think this morning there are some technical problem with my voice. Can you hear me?
Valentina, do you hear me?
Yes. Okay, I think Alessia, you should help me again with the presentation, because I don't know if all of you can
I don't
hear
know
me.
if you hear me. I see some interruption from Valentina. Do you have some bandwidth issue? Do you hear me, Valentina?
Yeah. Yes, Viral. Yes, sorry, I jumped in. You should hear me as well. We hear you, so you can
Yeah,
start
I see
whenever
now
you want.
Valentina. She's muted.
Yes, because I have some problem with the I don't know, microphone.
Yeah, but look, my presentation is in full screen. I don't know if you see it. Voila,
Yes.
I can see it.
Yes.
Okay, can I start?
Yes, Violet, please, whenever you want. Thank you.
Okay, I hope you can hear me well. Okay, good.
Yes.
So, good morning, everybody. A real pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for your interest in the EIC transition. I think it's a very good idea to do it a bit combined with the ERC. Obviously, there is a lot of collaboration between the two, and it was a pleasure to see Laura again. So let's start a bit with what is the problem that the transition is trying to solve, so that you see if there is a bit of a alignment between your intention and this. So basically, the transition is one of the few schemes that is trying to fight the so-called European paradox. You see here an example from a study from 24 now already, so not so recent anymore, where it was looking at the ERC actually, and they were finding that the US company, especially the startup, and you can see it here in the lower right corner, in the right side, the EIC, the US company, are the biggest beneficiary of the ERC results. And I think it's a shame, to be honest, so we need to improve as much as possible. It is true that this result, and you see here the link towards it, it stopped in 21 when actually this transition started. So I'm really curious to see if after a few years there is a change there. But definitely you see the benefit in terms of the US companies, especially the startups, and then the EU and the university. So that's an important part why the EIC transition is there. I would like to show you here the comparative success rates from 21 to 24, the last year where we had the data, to show that the transition has become very competitive. So my plea to you is think a bit very carefully before you apply, because if you are not really in the right kind of in the landing zone of the EIC transition, or with the goals of the EIC transition, if you are not aligned, I think your chances of success are not very high. Okay, so you really have to take this into account. And what we see already in 25 is the number of draft proposals are much higher than the same time in 24. So most probably the success rate will be lower than 10%, because the budget unfortunately didn't change much between 24 and 25. So we may end up around 5 or 6% success rate. What you see here and is that looking all across the years, we see that a lot of our beneficiaries are coming from ERC PoC. So you see around 50%, followed by 35% from FET, Pathfinder, and then even the FET Flagship and a few ERANET. So that's indeed ERC PoC applicants are doing something good. But still, for the one of you that are not familiar, basically the EIC is trying to support the research results from the lab to the market, basically, or to the innovation and then to the marking. And then obviously what we see is that we have received a lot of application from the beginning from Nobel Prize winners and high caliber researchers. In terms of eligibility, and I would definitely ask your attention, full attention here. Obviously, ERC PoC is eligible. So if you are doubting about that, it's clear. Obviously, our Pathfinder, which is the EIC compartment that is part of the EIC, or the FET, the previous name for Pathfinder. But since 2024 already, and continuing 25, the whole Horizon Europe Pillar 2 and Horizon 2020 Pillar 2 and 3 are eligible. Also, novelty in 25, and we see a lot of question and demand, are the joint undertakings. except if they run financial support to third-party grants, so only the one that are funded directly, and also from the beginning, the European Defence Fund project results, but for civilian application. Okay, so what support you will get? You will get between 0.5 and 2.5 million, and I underline this is an interval, so it's up to 2.5 million, and my advice is to ask how much you need, no more nor less. And then you can apply till 17th of September, I think at 5 o'clock or so, but don't wait till 17th of September. Obviously, the last day, it's very risky. And then you can also get booster grants, which you want are a bit of for Pathfinder, but also for EIC. For transition, only one of them. What is important is that you can apply only if you have a minimum TRL, okay? And then there are also some time restriction, namely you cannot apply to the transition if your project, we call this the base or link project, ERC or Pathfinder, is not running at least for a year. And then you can only apply up to 2 years after your project has finished, okay? And I hope you see the difference. So the idea is that you need to pass a certain time, 1 year or so, depending also about the length of your project, to have some results, okay? This is a new slide. I was reading actually last week on Friday a very interesting report from the Linknovate, top 35 spin-offs, and I found this life cycle, and I asked the permission to present it. So what you see here is, again, and this has nothing to do with the transition in the sense that we influence this, but they mentioned the ERC PoC and the EIC transition at a certain moment. You see that somewhere in the middle, proof of concept, early funding. And it was very useful to see this because it showed that the PoC or the transition, at least, is not a kind of a punctual event. It is part of a bigger scheme, and that you need to look very carefully of the previous steps. And you see here IPR strategy, you will see later on this, but the IPR protection and the valorization, and including market and competitive analysis. I think this is very important. I will get back on that. And then, of course, the previous step. So you see, this has to be part of a bigger scheme, that you have an idea, you have a drive, and then obviously you have the spin-off or spin-out formation. What we see is that the EIC transition, I have joking saying this is a spin-off factory, because we see the spin-off are created before applying to the transition, obviously are creating during the transition, but also many of our applicants and even projects are saying that they plan to create a spin-off after the end of the project. So this is really definitely an interesting aspect. But anyway, what is important, and this is one of our foundational slide, is these three elements. So the starting point, the end point, and then how do you get there? So basically, it's a project result. So you need to have a TRL of a minimum 3. When we say TRL 3, that you have a certain TRL, it means that is achieved. It's not just you started, okay? So that's why you see in our program achieve. So, but we advise TRL 4 because we've seen that a lot of projects applying a TRL 3, not to mention sometimes there is an overestimation of the TRL level, they hit the technical difficulties. So really the TRL 4 advice. And it's very important that you honestly, and ideally you ask somebody else like a TTO or whatever to help you, you answer a clear yes and without hesitation to all of these 3 questions, okay? So like you say, promising commercial results, technology ready for the next step. In other words, you are at TRL 4 ideally, or 3, and then you perform, you did a bit of homework. I will say more details in the next slides. And then the end point, we are flexible, TRL 5 or 6, but please take into account the accelerator asks now a minimum of TRL of 6. That's why if you want to plan to TRL 6, and it's a good idea, well, to do this in a 2 to 3 years project starting from TRL 3 it's a bit challenging. Okay, so that's why, again, another reason to start at TRL 4. But anyway, to get there, you will have to mature both, and I underline both the technology in the so-called technology maturation track and the business as well, the business maturity in the business track. Okay, and this goes more or less in parallel. I mean, don't have to be super precise here, but the idea is that business maturation should not start at the end, more or less, and they influence each other. They communicate, and the results of one, it's influencing the other, and the other way around. And then obviously there are iterations here and there. And then, of course, the third question about the motivated and diverse team, not only to mature the technology, but also to go towards the market. Now, I would like to, this is another clarification slide, and I would like here to make the reference of the previous slide of Linkovate. So you see, if on the technology level, you see you have the Pathfinder, the ERC, the ERC PoC, and by the way, there is a bit, but not much overlap between the Pathfinder and transition, and then you move to accelerator. On the business level, take this BRL MOLS as generic business readiness level, when you apply to the transition, also you are not starting from scratch. It's not that you have a BRL 1 here, but you do what I call your homework, and we are flexible. Obviously, if you have a ERC PoC, you do this as part of the PoC, and this is one I think one of the important reasons why the ERC PoC is ERC so successfully, because they passed through a PoC. We had for FET ILP Innovation Launchpad before, but there is, and now we have the booster grant, both for Pathfinder, for example. But there are others. We definitely encourage you to apply to Tech to Market BUS. And by the way, you can also apply if you are in the ERC, or you are eligible for transition. You are eligible for BUS, for Tech to Market BUS as well. We encourage you to work with your local TTOs and also with your local accelerator or incubators. Definitely do what you want, but you need to do your homework. This is very important, okay? Now, a bit more information about the evaluation process. I think we run a very streamlined evaluation process, but the idea is obviously you apply online. We do admissibility and eligibility with respect to from what is your base project, but also TRL levels and so on. Then we have a remote evaluation phase where you are evaluated, your proposal is evaluated by 3 independent experts, and then they give you a score, not a go, no go, they give you a score, and then we are ranking all this, and we take the 2.1, 2.2 number of the combined budget, okay, and then we cut there. And the one that are above the threshold, they are invited to the interview. So, for example, last year we had more or less space for 40 projects. We invited 81 to the interview. And novelties for this year is not at the interview are evaluated by experts. More information in the next slide. But the idea is that this year is a novelty. It's not only go, no go as what's still now. We have a novelty, go reserve. Okay, so that's very interesting. And then we try to inform you as quick as possible. Okay. The interview, it's well, you see here maximum 110 minutes, so a bit less than 2 hours. But basically, you will start with a bit of briefing and verification of documents and so on. And then you have 30 minutes, you have 10 minutes to pitch. After that, takes the Q&A, all right? And this is each jury member plus the PM has a 5 minutes question, okay? And then you are thanked for your contribution, and then there is a more in-depth discussion and the ESR. So some novelty, yeah, definitely we invite you to check very well, to read the work program, to see the FAQ, and then only if this is not clarified to ask your NCP. But definitely eligibility is very important. Then also in 25 we'll use lump sum, and this has an impact. For example, you don't need to foresee money for example, for FCSs for you. That's but now we have clarified this in the template. Okay, so that's why it's very important that you pay attention to the proposal template. Another novelty is that this year in 25, the Seal of Excellence, we will not only that we'll continue to give Seal of Excellence as till now, but we will be the first and I think the only scheme to give Seal of Excellence to consortia. Okay, till now there was Seal of Excellence to SMEs only and mono-beneficiary, but from this year we also give Seal of Excellence to consortia. Okay. And again, I was saying, pay attention to the proposal template. It's not a good idea to put it nicely to use the proposal template from previous year, and definitely do not delete pages or especially the cover page. And we have foreseen on our website, because both version with and without comments. So yeah, obviously you can use the version without comments to submit your proposal, but definitely look at the numerous comments in the proposal template because they are there to help you. Now we have asked again and again the jury member what are the strengths and weaknesses of the transition proposal, and you can see here in terms of weakness, definitely the lack of understanding of the market and of the competition is by far the biggest weakness. In other words, the surest way to fail, right? So this is very important to take into account. Some lessons learned are you need to know the problem that you are trying to solve. Laura also alluded to that and so really this problem needs to be a big one, in other words, to have an impact. Also, you need to know the market. And again, you see this is very clear, confirmed by experts, and you need to know the competition, right? Failing to do this, it's almost sure will get your proposal not selected. In the mirror a bit, but not exactly the same. The successful proposal and the successful criteria is the novelty of the innovation, but this is a bit of a double sword in the sense that most of the proposal are satisfying this because they are not coming from nowhere, they are coming from ERC, from Pathfinder, etc. So really that's most of the time the case, and then you see the team and followed by understanding and knowledge of the market, of the competition. So if you want to be successful, you need to have a disruptive innovation, in other words, not something incremental, but with high commercial potential, okay? And sometimes it may be a matter of finding this market, the right market, and finding the right problem that you try to solve, because many of the technology, they are also platform or foundational technology. And then, of course, the competent teams. You don't want to have only researchers there. Now, a bit more clarification, because we had a lot of questions. What do we have to present in terms of business plan, business model? I want to zoom into this, okay? So basically, you don't have to have a perfect business plan and the business model. You have to have what we call initial incipient business model, okay? In other words, it doesn't have to be perfect. Actually, you have to improve it. So failing to do so may get you not selected, but you need to put something. You need to put a minimum, this so-called homework, okay? Let's go a bit more into detail here. So you need to do a preliminary market research to understand a bit what are their needs. You see here on the right-hand side, the number one reason that a company, a startup failing is there is no market need. So we don't want to spend millions, literally, to discover that, oops, there is no need in the market, right? And then the second one is running out of cash, and okay, that's not the topic of today, but the third one is not the right team. So that's very important, okay? And so you need to really describe very clear what is the issue, the problem that you try to solve. Some slides, some presentation even begin with that, or is the second slide, okay? And then you do not need to go into very, very detail with respect to your competition or your market, but you need to at least identify and to describe a little bit the initial market that you plan, or markets where you plan to play. Okay. Then another confusion is about the business model. We clarify this in the work program, so please read this very carefully. But the idea is that you need to have a incipient business model describing a few elements, so not all of them, and we have clarified which one are essential and which one are not. So definitely value proposition is one of them. I would say even very important, the target market or markets, and less is more here, and then how you intend to make money, and of course some key resources. Okay, we don't want a more advanced one that you can clarify afterwards. Okay, and obviously depending your markets, there are basically more mature markets where you can have data, and less mature markets like quantum or AI or new space, where the data is a bit less detailed or less certain. Okay. The similar discussion about the business plan. Obviously, a business model is part of the business plan, but it includes much more. And the same here, you need to include incipient elements of an incipient business plan. In other words, this business plan do not need to be accelerator-like quality that you need to have at the end of the project. That's why this business maturation track. But you need to put a certain details about some elements of the business plan, and you see it very clear. What's the product or service you want to sell, basically, a market analysis, mentioned competition analysis, and something about the organization and how do you manage the project and the company, or how do you want to end up there. We do not want financial projection, marketing strategy, distribution channel, etc., in detail. Okay. And obviously, if you say, yeah, but business plan is for a company, or if I need a company, not necessarily you can do this in advance. Okay. But obviously, if you want to go towards the market, you cannot go towards the market with a university or an RTO. So this needs to be part of your plan at some moment. A bit more detail, and I've seen some questions, but we get this question again. That's why I introduced this one. What's the difference between the business model and business plan when I apply for transition and I apply for accelerator? Is the level of maturity and the detail that it makes the difference. Okay. So again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it cannot be upset either. And you need to show in your proposal that how you will go from an incipient to a more mature one. And if there is one aspect there is one thing that is across all our project, is that the business plan is the weak part in the project review. So yeah, there is space to improve here. Now some more clarification. We are not asking for to demonstrate the market traction. We are not asking even to show that you have a pilot production. This is clearly for accelerator, but I think you could include some pilot or early potential customers where you will test your product. Also, you will check the business plan and the business model. But this should not be confused with traction. Okay. However, what we have seen is that if you include these early stage customers or whatever in the proposal, the evaluators will look into that, and then it needs to be credible. You don't have to throw it there just because we think that this is what we want to hear. So think carefully. If you put it there, it needs to be credible, and you need to be serious about it. You just put some keywords there because the experts will like, or we like to hear that. Okay, more about the team. This is a very important one. You cannot just have experts there about researchers, but we are not asking you to have the whole C team, the CEO, CFO, etc. If you have it and it can happen, it's good. But if not, you need to say, okay, if I want to go to the market, I can do it with a company. So how you will acquire these competencies, okay? Very important about the performance. Obviously, again, you are improving your technology maturation, but you need to put KPI and performance KPI saying, okay, in the beginning will be this, but then towards the end of the project will be that, so that you show the progress that you have, and we can also monitor the progress or not. IP is another important part, and you may remember the slide that I showed you about from Linkovate. Please be very careful about that. What we are using the help of EPO to analyze the proposal that go from phase one, from the remote phase to the jury phase, and they obviously are European Patent Office, so they know to read and they have the databases, etc. So my advice is not to put patents just because we want to see patents. Patents is not a checklist. It needs to be linked with the project, and the more important than patents is the IP strategy. That's why we have developed very well attended trainings about IP strategy. We just I think there was 1 or 2 weeks ago. The recording will become available, so you may want to listen to these trainings to understand more about that before you finish your proposal. And then a clarification: freedom to operate is not needed at the proposal stage. It's needed, by the way, at the accelerator proposal, but that's a different. But then can be part of the project activities of tech to market business acceleration services. Okay. This is a summary slide. So what you need is to think about your impact, right? We don't want problems that are insignificant or very niche or your whatever pet project or even of a PhD project. It needs to have an impact, okay? I mean, there are so many issues that we need to solve in Europe. I'm sure you can find something meaningful. Then show your value proposition, and then the business model. You need to put in your proposal the essential element, not all of them, of the business model and the business plan. To conclude, again, you need to answer these 3 questions there in the beginning, but really honest. And of course, like any human being, it's very difficult ourselves to estimate, to evaluate ourselves. So it's better try to ask the opinion of a TTO, of some other experts that are independent, and they would give you an honest feedback. Again, it's an eligibility criteria, the minimum 3, but ideally 4. The right team, so you are not anymore in the Pathfinder or ERC project, so you need the right team. It means something different there. Obviously, you'll still need to mature your technology, but also you need to mature your business. Again, think to address a big problem or an unmet need. Okay, can be already a problem that's there, a market that it's already there, but you need to show that you'll do it much better, more efficient, and so on, faster. And then to explain this very clear in what is your competitive advantage. And then obviously you need to identify competitors and competitive solution. I thought that I used to say that it can happen that you don't have competitors, but we had our transition day 2 weeks ago, and one of our kind of success cases, he said something that I really like. Said, if you do not have any competitors, then it means you are doing something wrong. Okay, so think a bit about that. Definitely, I think in most of the cases, there are certain competitors, and it's very good to benchmark or to compare you with them, and to show why you are better. And in the very few cases that there are no competitors, you need to explain why this is the case, and then still you are doing something right. That's it from my side. I hope I was within the allocated time.
Thank you very much, Viral. Thank you for your presentation. I really appreciate the part that you focus on the key elements that make, of course, an EIC transition proposal successful. And I ask you to wait for the Q&A session.
Valentina, I lost you or lost you there.
Yeah, I know that maybe you cannot
it's not-
hear me, but
Now
I know that...
now I hear you again. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was saying that I really appreciate your presentation when you focused on the key elements that make an EIC
And then I
transition
lost you
proposal
again.
successful. Okay, I don't know what is happening, but I know that from the stream they can hear me. So just ask you to wait some minutes for the Q&A session. And now we move to our EIC transition success case. I invite here close to me, virtual close to me, Paolo Fiorini from University of Verona. I ask to my colleagues to add him in the...
Okay.
Thank you. Good morning,
Buongiorno,
Paolo.
Valentina. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Welcome to our event. And I invite you to share with us your experience.
Okay, let's see if it works.
Okay.
Right. Window.
Just some technical problems this morning.
This one
I
here.
know it's Monday.
Do you see anything?
No, it's coming. I think it's coming. Yes, it's coming.
Okay, you see it in presentation mode.
Okay.
Now you can see it in full screen.
Okay, now it's perfect. I leave the floor to you for to show your project. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Valentina. Again, good morning, everybody. And I'm Paolo Fiorini, former professor at the University of Verona, and now CEO of this little company called dall'ERC Robotics. What is the timeline where this project was born? I was lucky enough to follow the full sequence of an ERC advanced grant, and here, of course, we study all sorts of theoretical approaches. You see here some of the pictures. Basically, it was based on robotics, application of artificial intelligence to robotics, and in the field of robotic surgery. So very niche field, very difficult, but challenging. And we got a lot of scientific results, but the idea remained. I mean, the desire remained that we publish a lot of nice paper, we do a lot of nice videos, but do we really have an impact on people? And so here the idea of developing some product came about, and so we applied for a proof of concept. 1 year after, almost 2 years after the starting of the ERC grant, and we developed this prototype, which was a machine for doing biopsy to the prostate. Prostate cancer is a major health issue for half of the mankind, and it is very, very strange situation, and we'll discuss later on. But the diagnosis of prostate cancer is affected by 30% error. And so we said, oh, this is the perfect application for robotics. Biopsy is a manual procedure. We put a robot in that, so we have incredible accuracy. Then target identification, the identification of the lesions on the medical images. Typically, they are magnetic resonance images. Is done. This identification is done by a radiologist who may be tired, may not see the right places. So again, perfect application of artificial intelligence. So we put the two things together. We got this ERC PoC project. The project went very well. We tested on cadavers, we tested in laboratories, we had all the right steps to apply for a transition. Before applying to a transition, we started a company called dall'ERC Robotics, and then we were lucky enough to get a transition project awarded. And the project is in the second year of existence. And so, we will discuss a little bit about that. This is some concept about the structure of the proposal. It was discussed earlier on in much detail, and this again is a template of a few years ago, so I'm not sure that is very current right now. But again, the important thing that we have to remember is this, again, never a term was more appropriate than the term transition. The transition project is really transition, and you will see in how many aspects we have to make a transition. I've been researcher for all my life, and going to this direction is really a challenge. So okay, we can write very well about the excellence. We can write a little bit in terms of the impact, and we have to see what is the impact, and then of course the milestones and application. We got the transition grant. We formed a consortium, and again, a small number of partners. The company was is a partner of the project, but is not the coordinator, because I didn't feel that we would be strong enough to manage the grant that we received, and the University of Verona is the coordinator of the project. And these are the project objectives. So we want to develop to TRL 6, basically to pass TRL 5, because in order to apply for accelerator, we have to be within the TRL 6. We have to prepare the documentation. Keep in mind that we chose a very complex, I would say, area, which is medical robotic devices with AI applications. So the procedure to get the certification, the CE mark, is very difficult, very complex, and not very clear. So again, it's a major effort. The ISO certification is sort of straightforward. Market studies analysis. It was mentioned by Viorel earlier that you need to know your market. Be careful that you will never know your market at that level, at the level of the beginning of the transition. So be prepared to surprises, and I will tell you the surprises that we got. Form a company team and manage to include the key opinion leader, KOL, which is very important. And then these two sort of phantom things: contact DVCs. Of course, you may want to develop your company, and if you want to continue, the IC Accelerator is a good avenue. So, the project, as I said, we are at the second year of the project. You see here in red the task that we are currently going on. We are okay with the development of the project. Of course, it would be nice to go faster, but and I will tell you why it would be nicer. We are doing some evaluation of the prototype. We are ready to the preclinical evaluation. We have an important point of the intellectual property that we will discuss. And then the business plan, again. This is one of the areas that you may find, or you may have surprises, as we had. So, results after 2 years. We have established the quality management system. We have established the technical file. We have a better, I won't say clear, but better understanding of the market. We are integrating the prototypes, prototype of product. So again, it's not a elaborate prototype, it's a product that must be certified. So all the regulation for medical devices, for the class of the medical device that we are in, so it's quite challenging. We had a partial change of objectives, and we will discuss that. And here is our prototype. It's it's very lean machine with some user interface, automatic segmentation, AI comes into play, and we are starting the fundraising. What is left to do? Clinical test. Again, this prototype will be completed in the next few weeks. Of course, it's a first product prototype, so we expect a few changes. So we have to finalize the designs. Although we went through a design freeze in last January, we still expect some changes that should be done. And then we need to do the plan for the clinical test. So, we are online on the development of the project. We just had a small project review a couple of weeks ago. The project officer was very happy, and so the project is okay. So let's look a little bit more in detail. What are the lessons that I learned, at least, from this experience? Oops, sorry. Okay, so before we start an EIC project, as I said, we have to start to understand the meaning of transition. Transition is not just from the prototype to the product, but is a transition of mentality, from the mentality of researcher to the mentality of a business person. We have to figure out how to set up a company. Some of the comments from Viorel say that some of the project transition said that they want to set up the company after the transition. This is not a bad idea, but there are pros and cons. And then how to form the consortium. Again, this is critical. During the project, we have to figure out what are resources available, how to tune the project objectives. You are going to walk into very uncharted territories, and what was at the beginning an objective, it may not be your current objective. How to manage the project, and then how to prepare for the afterlife. What happens at the end of the transition? So let's see each one of these elements one by one in more detail. So the meaning of transition, as I said, we have to go from prototype to product, from research to business, from running a project to running a company, which is very, very critical. And this is why I said that it would be nicer if the project was a little bit faster. We need to set up a company. First of all, do you want to make a company? This is a business decision. Who will be the shareholders? Most of the time, there are colleagues. Some of these projects come from an academic environment. And as I did, we put friends that we think they will be contributing and so forth. But then we need some significant time commitment. There is never enough resources, never enough time, never enough people to carry out all the tasks of a company, not of a project, of a company. So typically a university professor doesn't have that type of time available. So this will sometimes be counterproductive, especially because investors want to see people involved in the company who are full-time workers. The company model, where do you want to aim? Do you want to become a unicorn? Do you want to get venture funds? Do you want to become a leader of the market? Or do you want to survive? Well, again, is your personality, but that will determine your approach to business. You've seen that very nice model that was presented at the beginning of the Valley of Life or Valley of Death of companies. Usually the choice is just binary. Either you survive well or you die. So it's not that you can survive so and so. It's a binary decision. And how do we form a consortium? You should be very, very careful about the partners that are in the consortium. They have to be very reliable. You have to rely on established friendship, partnership, and this is a very important point. The company, if you already have a company, should be the project coordinator. Sometimes and this is the point that we'll discuss later, the need of the company are not the need of the project. And the objectives may be discordant. So if you are not the coordinator of the project, then you are discussing with the project coordinator who may not think in the same way that you are thinking. So this is a sort of discussion that could be avoided if the company is the coordinator of the project. So what is the message of work done before you start the project? The project is not the company. So you have to change, and this again, the mentality, the meaning of the word transition. You are running a business, not a European project. The milestone, the deadlines of a project are set before you really know the needs of a company, and you have to be able to adjust them. During this project, what happens? Well, again, the issue of advisor, incubator, accelerators is always very, very tricky. I'm working in Italy, I'm from Italy. Unfortunately, the Italian ecosystem is not the best to start a company, to get proper advice. There are very competent people, but they are very few. So you have to be very, very selective in listening to the advice that comes from different parts. A very good source is the excellent resources offered by the EIC. Tech to market is incredible. IP protection, human resources are very, very helpful. Some are better and some are not as good. What is the difference between better and not better? The time. They're always full packed of very, very useful information, but sometimes the course is too short. So for instance, if you choose, because of the lack of time, a short course, because you say, oh, I get enough information in a very short time, you may get the opposite effect. So spend your time to work within these courses and take the courses that are a little bit longer. So, but again, this is a little confusing. It's not very clear how the courses are offered and what they offer. How to tune the project objectives? Okay, so I said at the beginning that we started developing a machine for prostate biopsy. Then we discussed it with the users, and they all say, "Oh, it's a very good idea. We support you." But in reality, what they meant is, "Okay, go ahead, but we'll never buy it." So you really have to find those who are really excited about the idea, and we discovered that the approach that we had, the biopsy, was not the real objective, because the precision and the accuracy that a robot gives to prostate cancer diagnosis is not useful in the current market. Will be useful when something new happens, which is called focal therapy. So basically, not developing the full prostate surgery, but doing some focal burning or deletion. So again, what are your customers? At the beginning, perhaps you have a wrong idea, and you have to figure it out later on. How to protect the ideas. The IP is very important. There are excellent courses, the Tech to Market of the EIC, the EPO also offer courses. They're very excellent. But again, they cost so much money that is incredible. So be very careful where you invest your money. The FTO, which is was mentioned earlier, is very important to be done during the transition, but it's extremely expensive. So you have to budget for those expenses very carefully. And then during the project, well, this is a problem, I think, my personal opinion, of the IC transition project, which is still a EU project and has the framework of a research project. Partners are paid in advance, milestones are set in advance, deadlines are set in advance, before you really know very well what is the problem, before you know very well what are your customers, what are your objectives, and so forth. So there is not much flexibility, especially the partners have received their money, and they work according to the milestones, which may not be current after a few years in the project. Reviewers may not ask the tough questions that are necessary, so some of the hidden problems may not become apparent during the review. You are a coordinator, but again, you have to wear your business hat. You're not a nice academic person. You have to be a very tough business person, which is very difficult for people like myself with a certain background. And if you're not the coordinator, of course, you will find yourself in a strange situation that the company will be the end beneficiary of the project, but it's just one partner of the project. So, it's a difficult situation, which may lead to some conflict of interest. So the take home here, the project objectives are not the company objective. The company objective is to go to the market, carry on the certification, start disseminating your product. The object of the project are to meet the deadlines, to prepare the deliverables, and get a satisfactory evaluation. The two things are not the same. Keep that in mind. And then how to prepare for the end. Okay, so there are many options. We can do another project, continuation, and so forth. We have been a good experience. Perhaps we want to stop it, or we want to build a company on these foundations. So we really need money. We need people, we need resources in general. We need the right people, we need the right resources, both financial, laboratories, space. Money is the key issue. Business angels, you have to, in your strategy, you have to figure out when to contact them. they are the best for investing in an early stage company, but when you are already in a transition project, perhaps they are not, they cannot support you with the level of investment that you need. Keep in mind, for instance, that in our case, we have to do 3 or 4 clinical studies, and the study runs between €500,000 to €1 million each. So, you know, we're talking real money, and it's not common to have this money handy in your pocket. Venture capital, venture capitalists are mythical figures. You know, they are very difficult to meet, very difficult to find. Again, when I was saying at the beginning, be careful when you rely on incubator and accelerators, because they offer you to take a course on how to contact the venture capital. But then you know, you don't know which venture capitalist you will contact. Perhaps your business is in medical, like myself, and you'll be talking with people in energy or in transportation. So it's a little bit confusing. And again, it works much more than in science. It works through connections and friendship and people you have been meeting in other situations, so they can give you an introduction to some venture capitalist. And then, of course, the obvious continuation is the EIC accelerator, and which is, you know, a very difficult proposal. And again, in our case, we are starting to work on that. So the take-home is good luck. You know, it's a very, very difficult transition of mind, of people, of project, or objectives, and it's really not to be taken as a normal European project. It has to be taken a very specific, very particular, and again, that fantastic slide that was presented at the beginning with the transition just in the middle of the survival, the dead area for the companies. And if you notice, it's very interesting because it doesn't reach the beginning, it doesn't reach the end. So you need a little bit support at the end, proof of concept, and then you need the support at the beginning, and then you need support at the end with the transition to overcome the valley of death of the companies. So, you know, good luck to everybody. And this is the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Paolo. You really went very in deep of your experience of the easy transition projects. Now, I don't know if all can hear me. I think we opened the Q&A session, so I ask you to stay with us. Okay, I try to read the question. Bayer, can you hear me now?
Yes. I hope you can still hear me as well.
Yes. So we can go ahead with the question. I read the first is a comment. While I understand that from the European Commission's perspective, linking EIC eligibility to the results of previous EU-funded projects may seem reasonable. I believe this approach significantly limits the scope of the program and exclude many relevant innovations.
Well, I guess the question is for me, Valentina. So, I mean, I have a deja vu when I see this question, very pertinent, very relevant, with the first question that I get in the first EIC transition info day in 21. And why is the EIC transition limited to a previous project? Look, it's a very good question. Definitely, I agree that we miss relevant innovations, but the budget is very limited for EIC transition. We have around 100 million euro since 2-3 years now. While the scope increases and the result, it's no surprise that the success rate decreases. So already with the current budget, the scope, I think, is too wide. And the success rate, my landing zone for success rate is the 20%, because this is a follow-on call. So you need to multiply the success rate of the first stage, ERC, FET, Pathfinder, with this, and you are still only a TRL 6 in the best of case. So 10% with 10% success, it's a 1%. It's way too little. Even if you would save 20%, is 2%, much less than the VC are doing follow-up and so on. So I think, yes, you are right. And that's why I take this as an opportunity to encourage all of you to talk with your member states, to whatever, to say, okay, the solution is to increase the budget. And then if you increase the budget, then we can have a decent success rate in a first with a limited to Horizon Europe. And then there are even plans or possibilities to go outside. So because the European paradox doesn't happen only in the Horizon Europe, it's also in the member states program. But of course, you need to have a budget that is commensurate with the scope. And if the scope is way beyond Horizon Europe, then of course you need a much higher budget.
Thank you very much. I think another question for you. Are interviews online? Which is the main aim, focus on technology or in the business aspects?
Yes, the interviews are online since the very beginning. Well, both are the focus on the technology and on the business. Okay, so yes, you need to you can expect, or you should expect both, including IPR whenever. I mean, you need to understand that there are around 6+1 jury members in the interview, and they all have a chance to ask 5 minutes questions. So they will zoom in a 360 kind of way at your proposal.
Thank you. And again, do reviewers evaluate EIC transition proposals differently depending on whether they come from internal university teams or recently established companies?
Well, we try to have a diverse number of experts, but that they should have some idea about innovation. Okay, we have like 1,200. I recently approved the pool for remote evaluation. We are prepared with 1,200 experts. You can imagine that they are very diverse. The evaluation criteria are the same, but of course, yeah, you can expect that some will focus more, but we try to minimize these differences in the sense that we have the briefing, we inform them, we brief them very well, and the evaluation criteria are the same. So I don't have the data in the sense that we haven't done the study to see that let's say university or evaluators coming from university put more focus on, let's say, scientific aspects, but yeah, I think it's you should not count on this.
Thank you. For applying to the EIC transition, you need to identify a starting TRL. We heard that the ERC Proof of Concept has not TRLs, but as a matter of fact, you need one for applying to the EIC transition. Could you please explain how to go from no TRL identification to TRL 3-4?
Look, let's be clear. The goal when you apply to the transition from ERC is not the ERC PoC, okay? ERC PoC, it's a proxy. Of course, it's a eligibility, but we are not targeting the ERC PoC, the 150K. We are targeting the technology that you have developed during the ERC project, starting, advanced, synergy, what have you. Because there is where you get millions, 3, 4, and you can develop and mature a technology. ERC PoC is a proxy. And it's a very good one. I mean, the results speak for themselves, so I will not defend or explain this. And then it's normal that the ERC PoC doesn't have a TRL, but still your technology has a TRL, and we have a FAQ question on that. We have the guidance for the NCP and your access, which are particularized for your field, whether it's health and even several subsectors there, or it's technology or software, etc. So the fact that ERC PoC doesn't have a TRL, it doesn't mean anything. Okay.
Thank you. So now about the average duration of the EIC transition project, I think, not proposal.
Yes, I mean, we try to be as flexible, and I think the transition in itself is a very flexible scheme from budget to duration to consortium, etc. So we are just giving between 2 and 3 years. Okay, so we are not advising more than 3 years, but then anything in between, it depends on your case. What we are not advising you is to underestimate your duration. We've seen this strategy with more or less success, but definitely, obviously, it can pass once or twice. So we are not advising you to underestimate your proposal, saying we'll do it in 2 years, and then yeah, then as soon as you start the project, you realize this, or you knew from the beginning, even worse in the case, and then you have all kind of amendments. Amendments are, of course, possible, but they are not a given. And I'm talking here about amendments to prolong the project. So it's better to have a right estimation. You also have the budget, etc., because otherwise you may end up in difficult discussions.
Thank you.
And also regarding the, if I can take the option, also is flexible in terms of consortia. So we have anything between mono beneficiary and consortia. Definitely less is more here. And you've seen from Professor Fiorini explaining a bit some of the issues they faced with consortia and so on. So if you should ask yourself, do I need a consortia? And if yes, make sure is the minimum that you need, no more than that. And then you can have subcontractors, procurement, whatever. Being member of a consortia, it's a big responsibility. So you want to make sure that, and also there is an evaluation criteria in the implementation that says that each and every member needs to have a right place there. So yeah, my advice is to not to less is more. Okay.
Thank you. Could you please send a link of the patent training video?
We are now, let's say, working on the video because it's not yet ready. But my advice would be, and not only for this reason, but to connect to our communication channel from LinkedIn to newsletter to Twitter, and then when this will be there, we will send the link around.
Thank you. And I also had that when the video will be ready, we will show it also through our channel, APRE, but also access to EIC. I think it's a channel where we can share this video. And now to Paolo. The question is about your experience on the interview in the EIC transition, the evaluation of the EIC transition, in brief, of course.
Yes, Valentina. Actually, there is another resource that is very, very helpful, was the National Contact Point. Before doing the real interview with the EIC, we had a couple of sessions of training with the National Contact Point that were extremely useful. So the interview went quite well. There was questions that, of course, were raised, but nothing impossible. But again, we were very well trained by these preliminary interviews with the National Contact Points.
Absolutely, absolutely, Paolo. Thanks for raising the issue. I think if the NCP can do something, would be to have these mock interviews. We had a lot of questions from program committee. Tell us what are the questions that you get. There are no fixed questions. We have put in the info day what are of the category of questions, but the question that you will get depends on your proposals. Okay, and you cannot know this in advance. But then, of course, we're obviously looking to find the best experts, but then they are not the only experts in this world. So what the NCP can do, then definitely they can find other experts, whether national or even European, and do these mock interviews. And then if you have a weakness in your proposal, and most people do, then they will zoom in. So at least you know that, what to or even, obviously, the proposal at that stage is submitted, but the slides maybe not. So you can address this thing or clarify these aspects in the slides.
Thank you very much to mention also the role of National Contact Point. We, of course, organize mock interviews for transition, but also for EIC Accelerator. And for transition, of course, we do in collaboration with our colleagues, other EIC NCP, because as you know, in the consortium, there are a lot of other countries, so we try to do this also in collaboration with our colleagues, other EIC NCP. Okay, another question about the TRL. At TRL 3.4, it's very difficult for new companies to find results achieved by previous projects, since their reporting is usually poor. This fund seems designed mostly those already in the loop and preventing external participants to build upon results of somebody else. How can this be facilitated?
Very good question. Very good question. Thank you very much. Because from the beginning we said that EIC, you don't need to be let's say, a beneficiary of previous project to apply to the EIC transition. Of course, you cannot apply without any link and approval, and that's why you have to fill in that form. Well, there are not one but several ways to do this. First of all is the innovation radar. And we have a dedicated section in the innovation radar for the transition results, which we are updating every year following this Excel file that is put on our project. So that's one of them. Then the second is exactly this Excel file where we have as an indicative with the information about the potential projects that are eligible, and then you can look at that and try to find. The other possibility is the Horizon Results platform, and then of course the Cordis, which and then combined with this Excel file, where you see which are the projects that are potentially eligible. I'm not saying this is very difficult, very easy, but in the same time, it is clear if you look at the statistics about the number of patents and how many and they are exploited, etc. We see that there are a lot of how can I say that we do have a lot of research results that are not exploited. And by the way, we are working on improving the Horizon Results platform. And so on, and that's why when we put in the transition work program that you need to have the link where results are put, and this has to be a public one. So you see, so we are encouraging as much how can I say, as much transparency as possible. And I would like also to advise to contact the NCPs, because we are advising to contact the NCPs if you want to apply to the transition, whether you are or not a previous beneficiary.
Thank you. Is a research developed with the new generation internet eligible for the EIC transition?
But we are not referring to a certain technology or not. Obviously, if there is a technological aspect, yes. So you need to see where is your base project, so to look if it's part of the eligible. And of course, you need to look at the TRL level, not to be too high TRL. So yeah.
About the reserve list, another question: what is the point of reserve list? Where is it expected to receive those extra funds from, and the probabilities?
Well, the idea or the need for a reserve list is not necessarily related to the extra funds. It may be in certain cases, yes, but the idea was that it's very difficult to exactly, because you have a go, no go, and then you have a certain budget. So in the past, we didn't end up exactly in the budget. I mean, you see, it's very difficult to really land in exactly 98 million euros. So that's why in the past we didn't consume the budget, or we overconsume. So we thought a reserve list, it will help alleviate. Is not necessarily a panacea, and we don't have yet a concrete experience. We'll see it here. But we definitely think that it will help us a bit to manage these things. Also, sometimes, and by the way, I think ERC also has a similar mechanism. I don't think it's called reserve list, but you say, okay, it's a go. You get the money, you don't get it, and I think there is something in between. So yeah, it's not necessary, but sometimes, but you may get some money, but usually this is very, unfortunately, all our schemes are oversubscribed. So this money and the budget is very tight. So I'm afraid that at least for the moment, that's not a very high probability.
Thank you. What is the difference between the EIC transition and the hold SME instrument phase 2? Sorry, the question? Okay.
Yeah.
This seems very similar.
No, I see it. But look, I mean, you can assimilate, not the same, but roughly, just to understand the SME instrument phase 2 is what is the current accelerator. So when I say this, the answer becomes, or the difference becomes obvious.
Thank you. I lose the question, so I ask to my colleague to share the screen again with.
It says, what is the best time to launch a startup at the end or on year or whatever?
Okay.
Look, this is not like a tick the box exercise. There is the best time. I mean, you've seen from Professor Fiorini, they created the startups before applying to the transition, and they are not the only one. As I mentioned, we are a kind of a transition is a startup factory before, during, and after. Okay, so you don't have to think into this very, sorry for saying a bit simplistic term, when is this, I take this, and no, it's not so simple as that. Whatever makes sense in your concrete case, right? If you want to do it before, but not necessarily to apply for a transition, because this is what your business planning is, it makes sense, then you do it before and you apply with the startup or with the spin-off. Then of course you need to look at the FCA or FCS. What is the financial capability assessment, FCA? So then we have seen that in some cases, if the spin-off is the coordinator, it may not be financially solid, and then we have to put a university as a coordinator, or as Professor Fiorini explained, you might not want to do this yourself, because being a coordinator implies a certain responsibility and a certain overheads, etc., etc. We have a lot of cases where they create the startup during the project, and then we do an amendment to include the startup, the spin-off startup in the project, and then to be eligible for certain costs. And of course, they will do certain work. And then also is possible to do it afterwards. Of course, when you say I will create a startup after I finish the project, inherently it's a bit less how can I say, trustable or solid in terms of evaluators, because obviously after the project finish, you can do whatever you want, including not doing it. So you need to be convincing enough for the like this is an exploitation path to the evaluators. Okay, so it's up to you to do this. We are not telling you should do it before, during, or after, because that's what we want and what's the best. It's what makes sense and what do you want.
But there is also one point which is important, is the intellectual property. Because if you already have a company and the patents are developed by the company, then they are the property of the company. Otherwise, then you have to deal with licenses and purchasing, and it may not be simple nor cheap.
Exactly, Professor. This is very important. And by the way, I advise you also to look at one of the trainings for this. I think the recording is available, licensing, because they just recently discussing a project where we see the disastrous licensing term towards university that is affecting their runaway, their cash flow, etc. So IPR is an important aspect indeed to take into account, and probably this was one of the reasons why Professor decided to create the company before.
Thank you. What's the minimum number of partners required to participate to EIC project? Is it mandatory for the consortium to? Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, I got the question. So look, before I answer this question, both my plea and my advice is read the work program. We try to have a work program that is a bit adapted to you. That's why you see the headings that you usually don't see in other parts of the work program. And I don't know, perhaps Professor Fiorini can comment honestly if he found the work program difficult to understand. But I see a lot of questions. But what I read between the lines from a lot of the questions is that you did not read your work program. My simple advice is as following: if you didn't read the work program, don't even think to apply. And what I mean is read it twice or thrice, okay? And then the next one is you read the FAQ, and the third is to talk with your NCP. Do not do it the other way around or send the question to us. It's a minimum that you don't. How can you apply to something that you didn't read the rule book, okay? Including the footnotes, by the way. So really, this question, it's a basic question. You know, there are no stupid questions, so I will answer it. But it really tells a lot about the potential applicant. So really, don't bother to apply if you don't read the work program at least twice. Okay? It says very clear that you can apply from mono beneficiary to a small consortium up to 5. Okay? So there and between this, there is no right or wrong answer. If it's you are mono beneficiary or you want to be as mono beneficiary, it's perfectly okay to apply as a mono beneficiary if you can execute the project and convincing. Okay, and actually we see that 40% of our beneficiaries are mono beneficiary, not necessarily SME, but mono beneficiary. And we have seen a change from the first calls where the profile was a V. In other words, almost symmetrical V, in the sense that the mono beneficiary and the 5-member consortium with 5 partners were the most popular, with mono beneficiary, I think one project more or 2 or whatever. And in the last one call, when we did the exercise, was almost like a hockey stick, in the sense that the one with 5 members in consortium was much less popular. Okay, but it's not because we said this or that. No, it's just this was happened organically in terms of how successful they are. But we don't want to tell you this or that to put 5, but because I mean this myth was there since the FET, when it was thought that the big consortium has a bigger chances of application. By far, no.
And if I may add, the key point is to put the right competencies. So, you know, if you don't have the background in business, get a partner that has the business competence. If you don't have the background in design, mechanical design, get the partner that does that. It could be a subcontractor, but then, you know, you lose the overhead and things like that. So there are considerations, but the key point is to get the full competence that you need to satisfy the objectives.
Exactly. That's the implementation evaluation criteria.
Thank you. And of course, if you have doubts on the composition of your consortium, of course, contact us, that we can discuss together if we have to adapt on specific cases. Okay. Professor Fiorini, a question for you. Could you please explain a little bit more about the key opinion leader board?
Okay, well, it depends on the market that you are addressing. If you're developing a consumer product, clearly you really don't have this issue. But if you develop something for a restricted, protected market like medicine, space, military, and so forth, you need to have somebody who become your not your sponsor, but the promoter, somebody who will be able to bring your ideas, your product to that community. You know, in our case, we are addressing the market of urology surgery. So as an engineer, I cannot go and talk to the surgeon and say, okay, this is my great idea, and you should trust me. They look at me and start laughing. So I need to have a urologist whom I have convinced, and that he or she likes the idea, and then he will be the sort of translator, and at least to remain the concept of translation or transition of my ideas to the actual customers. So, and these are, you know, if you get people who are well respected in the reference community, president of this or big number of publications, or these are the key opinion leaders. So people who are trusted by the community, your reference community, who can be the spokesperson for your idea. And again, it's not easy to find because the community is not homogeneous. You know, I don't want to go into the details of what we discovered, but you know, what we are proposing is not really liked by many of the community. And so, even those, if there are key opinion leaders in this community, may not be in favor of your idea. So again, you have to be very careful whom you're talking, and you may get misdirected, unfortunately. So again, a key opinion leader is a person very respected in your reference community, with whom you can talk and get advice, and also use in a good sense to promote your idea in the community.
Thank you very much. So about the question about the best time to launch the startup, we already replied. So in the project execution, we need manufacture, say 50 prototypes of our system for let the potential customers to test in on the field, and I'm so sorry, but I'm loose. Improve the engagement with the market. Can we charge in the full cost of these prototypes on the project, or only as percentage or depreciation?
This is a very good question. In general, for example, if you buy a certain equipment, this is clearly only the depreciation cost is charged to the project. But I'm not sure if this applies to the prototype. Normally, yes, prototype is part of the project, but 50 prototypes, it's a bit tricky. What I would advise is to ask your question to the NCP, and then it will get to us, so I can ask financial officers to ask you exactly this question. We do have also a dedicated action to help you with testing with let's say interested buyers, which is outside of the projects, but that you can also look into it. But my best would be to ask this question via NCPs, and we'll answer more concretely on that.
Thank you. What is the connection among PoC, Pathfinder, Transition, Pre-Accelerator, and the announced ARPA style new tool? How can we select which one to apply?
Well, that's a very wide reach question, and probably shows the ecosystem of our tools may be complicated, or the read of the work program was not that good. So first of all, there is no let's say pre-accelerator is the first one that falls off, because this is only for certain widening country. Doesn't compare here, and as the name it says, is mostly to prepare companies from the, let's say, the weaker ecosystem to give them higher chances to accelerator. So definitely it doesn't compete with Pathfinder or Transition or what have you. Now, ERC PoC, I think the answer is quite clear. There is the link with the Transition is that is eligibility criteria, for the reason that I explained before. So it's not a competition with the Transition. If you want to if you have some good results from your ERC project, then you may want to apply to ERC PoC. Regarding Pathfinder and the ERC, well, basically, I remember the first or the second slide that Laura showed. Actually, there is much less overlap between the Transition and the Pathfinder. Actually, the Transition starts where Pathfinder stops, and obviously Pathfinder is not exact TRL. That's why you may have a TRL, and that's why we put TRL 3-4, because certain projects Pathfinder finish at TRL 3, some others in challenges, for example, may finish at TRL 4. So that's why I would say the Pathfinder is obviously a compartment in EIC, which vision is from idea to the market, right? So the idea is the Pathfinder, then the Transition, and obviously the market is accelerator or even after, right? So in that sense, the positioning between the Pathfinder and ERC, not ERC PoC, is much more related, in the sense that obviously in ERC you can start much earlier than in Pathfinder, where you have just curiosity, while in Pathfinder you start at TRL 1. okay? But obviously in ERC, you also have TRL 1, 2, and 3. So that's why the ERC, the Pathfinder, there is quite a big difference with the ERC, also a lot of similarities, because, for example, in ERC, my understanding is that you don't have that many companies, while in Pathfinder, obviously 50% are university, but the other 50% are startups or SMEs, SMEs, corporates, and even RTOs, right? So I would say, to put it systematically, you have accelerator, before that you have transition, and before transition you have Pathfinder and ERC, and then obviously if you want to apply to transition, you need to take a ERC PoC, okay?
Thank you very much. Time, it's almost ready. It's almost finished, so we have just time for a couple of questions, one for Viral and one for Paolo, and then for the other question, I think we can address after the event. Okay, the expected time for the result after the remote evaluation, how much time we have to prepare the interview?
Well, I think we have at least 2 or 3 weeks from the moment that we announce the results, at least to the ones that succeeded in that were to be invited to the phase 2, and then when the interview start, or the week start, because it can be the beginning or the end, right? So, but so yes, this is the period that we have. For the moment, the interview week is fixed on the first week of December, but things can change. I mean, honestly, we see a lot of drafts in the current call, much higher than last time. But still, obviously, we are committed to keep the timeline. Obviously, our availability of the experts, it's already asked. So yeah, you should count 2 to 3 weeks. That's why the NCPs, they need to have this mock interview already planned.
Thank you very much. And Paolo, last question is about if you have a marketing agency or similar among the project partners, or a subcontract maybe.
Yes, but again, it was a company, is an incubator in Rome, with whom we had worked on developing the PoC, and of course they were very familiar with our project and idea, and so they helped us in developing the transition proposal, and they were included as partners to carry out all the business part, business analysis and business model, the thing they were mentioned earlier.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Viral. Thank you, Paolo, for your time to dedicate it to this event. And it was very much appreciated from our side. Thank you.
I thank you for your interest, and would be also useful to send us some statistics, like how many people attended, etc., from where they are, and so on.
Yes, for sure. We are in contact also for the project, so we will give you all the information about this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paolo.
Thank you, Professor. Bye.
Thank you, yeah.
And now we move to the last part of our event, and now it's time to present our project, Access to EIC. Is the project dedicated to the EIC National Contact Point. And thank you, Alessia Rotolo from APRE, the coordinator of this project, to present our activities and the support that we can do to our applicant. Thank you, Alessia.
Thank you, Valentina. I will be very, very quick, but I just would like to comment on what all of you have said. As somehow anticipated from everybody or from all the other speakers, let's say that Access to EIC, as many of you know, is the NCP network for EIC and European Innovation Ecosystem. As you can see from this slide, we are 16 partners, so we cover, let's say, all the whole European ecosystem, and for us it's really important because we can share our experience, our insights, all the connection that we have also with ESMEA, and this is very important because we can use all the knowledge that we can share for in order to improve, the participation, the better participation to the European Innovation Council calls. I don't want to stay, I guess I can say, a long time on these slides, but what I can say is that we, first of all, our target are NCPs, but we use, ourselves in order to share our experience among the entire ecosystem. So we focus on Pathfinder, transition, accelerator, and also now on pre-accelerator and the EIC scale-up. We focus also on financial instruments, and everything that we do to provide support to applicants, so to researchers, to small and medium enterprises, to innovators, to investors, to all the people that can, or entities that can apply to the EIC. Within the project, okay, we have different activities. So we have trainings, first of all, for us, for NCPs, in order to improve all our capacities and knowledge, and consider that the trainings are open to all NCPs, also to NCPs who are not part of the consortium. Then we have other work packages on synergies. So we study, for example, the synergies with the IT, with plugin scheme, with Seal of Excellence. We have a work package on financial instruments, but in this case, and within this webinar that we have co-organized, we have also a work package dedicated to tools, and in particular to annotated template. So in these slides, you see all the annotated templates that we and fact sheet that we have developed up to now. So as anticipated, we cover all the instruments. So we have an annotated template for Pathfinder, for transition, for accelerators, and in particular for transition, we are going to publish the new version within this month. All the tools are, free, are available on our website. You can find them and the updates also on our socials, mainly on LinkedIn. And all the comments that you find in the annotated template are, let's say, just suggestions that came from our experience as NCPs, but also, for example, we took some elements that we saw this morning in the presentation shared by ESMEA, and we put them in the annotated template. So you can find some interesting quotation and refers also in the annotated template. These are our contacts, so you can follow us on the website, on X, let's say, but also on mainly on LinkedIn, where you can find all the tools that I presented. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Alessia, for the presentation and for to show us all the tools that we as NCPs can provide to our let's say clients. And so we are at the end of the event. I would like to thank you all for attending our this initiative, and of course we as National Contact Point are available for all your question, your doubt that you may have also after. In our website, in our APRE website, you can also find the presentation and the recording of this event. So we are available for other information in the next few days if you may have. Thank you very much and goodbye.